20 years after the end of its civil war, Tajikistan's economy is recovering. New and modern buildings are sprouting up around Dushanbe, the capital. But behind the progress, a stubborn problem persists. Nearly 180,000 children, 1/3 of all Tajikistan's children, work on the streets, in the bazaars and in the farm fields. Poverty is one reason, the lack of jobs another. Hundreds of thousands of Tajiks have left the country for jobs abroad, leaving women and children to fend for themselves. Most of those left behind earn less than $2 a day. With families desperate for work, children are often at risk. Abduvali lost his arm working at the bazaar.
I was in second grade of secondary education. I picked up an electric cable that was lying on the road. I got electrocuted. I went to hospital after that.
In the countryside, poverty, lack of manpower and machinery, and long-standing traditions make child labor common. Many farmers know it is prohibited for children to work, but just as many don't fully understand the consequences for their children.
At the farmers' meetings, we tell farmers that when it comes to manpower, they should be very careful about using child labor below the minimum age of employment. Children are in the developmental stage. Their spines and joints are delicate, but farmers don't think about it.
The weather is hot today. They use cold water from an open source. They are using chemicals that are toxic for them, and they aren't eating well. They are eating on the street without washing their hands, which may lead to disease. Most of the money they earn goes to their families. They may not have enough to pay for medicine if they get sick.
Every day, child labor monitors from the National Center for Adult Education of Tajikistan go through the local markets, talking with young people and their employers about the dangers of child labor. For these highly trained monitors, it's easy to identify someone trapped in child labor. Often the children look younger than they are, their bodies are smaller and weaker, their faces are tired.
We look them in the eyes and you can tell if a child is working in forced labor. Looking in their eyes, you can realize they're calling for help. You can see they want out of child labor.
Under a project called Combating Child Labor in Central Asia, commitment becomes action. ILO IPEC and the Ministry of Labor created a successful child labor monitoring system to identify children in or at risk for child labor, assess the risks and hazards they are exposed to, and get them into education or skills training, and worked to mainstream the child labor issue into government policy. One key achievement, the creation of an advanced training center in Dushanbe, which offers training in different skills such as car repair, plumbing, and baking. The National Center for Adult Education directly targets the youth employment issue. It is fully funded by the ministry and enjoys strong support from the government, including a visit by President of Tajikistan. Shinoza used to work with her mother at the bazaar. Now she is an accomplished baker.
A lot has changed in my life. When I came to the center, I didn't know how to do anything. But now I have job skills, and I can say with full confidence that I am excellent at my job.
Mohriddin used to stand by the roadside, selling bus tickets. Now he's training to be a plumber.
I am gaining skills, and I am learning how to use my skills in practice.
When she was growing up, Nadira worked at the bazaar instead of going to school. Now she's being trained as a seamstress and has big dreams.
I'd like to own a tailor shop and hire tailors at my tailor shop to work for me.
Nadira's mother learned about the risks of child labor at training workshops organized by the project. She sees a big change in her daughter.
She learned quite a bit thanks to this center. My daughter now has specific skills. She's enthusiastic and she's striving to achieve something.
Working with the Ministry of Labor, the ILO-IPEC project trained child labor monitors and established the child labor monitoring sector in the city of Dushanbe and in the rural Isfara district. School teachers were trained about the risks of child labor. Parents of working children received career guidance and self-employment training. The program worked intensively with the National Center for Adult Education.
The ILO's role was significant. Today we know a lot about laws and conventions involving the worst forms of child labour. The ILO supported us and trained our experts to conduct monitoring. ILO-IPEC organised meetings with outside experts and built our capacity to train others in child labour monitoring skills.
So far, more than 500 children in child labor or at risk for child labor have gone through vocational skills training at the center. When the monitors come back from the field, the information they have gathered about the children they encountered is entered into the child labor monitoring system. The information is then sent to the CLM committees established by the government's children's rights departments in Dushanbe Municipal and the Isfara district. The committees decide the best alternatives for each child who has been identified. The focus is always on the individual and finding what is in the best interest of the child. Depending on the situation, children are recommended for non-formal or formal education or vocational and skills training.
People believe all we do is identify and put children in categories, but that's not true at all. The monitors are friends to these children and their families. We help children get on the right track.
Since 2011, the pilot project has identified children at risk for or involved in child labor in the Isfara district and prevented or withdrew them from child labor and provided them with transportation, health care, and school supplies.
We work with parents, the community, and the local authority in Isfara to provide targeted aid to the children. There is an understanding between employers, trade unions, and the local authority, and we make sure that the ILO conventions on child labor are implemented.
The Tajikistan Employers Association is a key player in the fight against child labor in agriculture. The employers built a special training center in a farming community outside Dushanbe. Trainers trained by the ILO-IPEC project explained the risks of child labor.
When we started the awareness-raising campaign, there was a lot of resistance among our members. But when our experts explained the dangers of child labor, the farmers began doing what we recommended. This changed their thinking and they started supporting us.
The Employers Association signed an agreement with trade unions and the government to take a comprehensive approach against the worst forms of child labor and has implemented a code of conduct for its 228 members in all sectors of the Tajik economy. But getting the members to listen at first was difficult.
Our input and that of the ILO, which provided us with training courses, made the difference. We explained to people that using children in agriculture this way is not proper, and they understood the concept.
Tajikistan's trade unions are also committed to the fight against child labor. Trade union labor inspectors were trained to identify child labor across all sectors of the Tajik economy, especially in agriculture, and organized parent-teacher meetings in the regions to talk about the problem.
People had no idea about the implications of child labor before. With the help of the ILO, we visited different districts of the country addressing the problem. Children are our future. They are our future trade union members. If we don't stop this problem in 10 or 15 years, what kind of workers are they going to be? We need to fight this problem today.
Working with Tajikistan's Office of Statistics, ILO IPEC supported a comprehensive survey of the country's labor market, for the first time focusing on the issue of child labor in the economy. 6,400 households were interviewed, and the activities of 10,000 children aged 7 to 17 were analyzed.
The objective was to find the cause of child labor and its consequences. It's the first child labor study of its kind here. We never had this type of information on child labor before.
The information gathered by the survey, the social partners, and the child labor monitoring system is being mainstreamed into national policy to ensure the child labor issue is addressed in the years ahead. The program has been particularly successful in helping Tajikistan formulate the first national action plan for the elimination of child labor by 2020.
Through the involvement of the social partners and other stakeholders, the government developed a strategy for eliminating the worst forms of child labour in the period to 2020.
Technical assistance provided by ILO IPEC was instrumental in the development of Tajikistan's national policy on child labour.
I think one of the main contributions for the country in Tajikistan of the project was that partners, I would say, with the confidence that they are ready now to tackle child labor. They were equipped sufficiently, both methodologically, theoretically, numerous capacity building trainings has been going on in the country, both on the national level, on the regional level. We have been building the capacity regularly based on the new methods and techniques that IPEC thinks that is the best, and it's proven that it works in other countries as well.
The comprehensive approach and partnerships of trade unions, employers, and the government is paying off in the fight against child labor in Tajikistan. But the real test is how lives have been changed.
What I dreamt about all my life, I found here at the training center. I needed computer software, keyboards, computer components, and I got them here. Now I know how to use Word, how to use Microsoft Office. I want to work in a job that involves computers, rather than carrying heavy loads. I want to work in IT, to be a computer programmer.
Tajikistan still faces many challenges: continuing poverty, the lack of jobs, and tens of thousands of job seekers leaving the country for work abroad means much more needs to be done. But ILO IPEC is showing there is a way to help young people once thought to be trapped in the cycle of child labor to get back to school and to acquire the skills that will ensure a more secure life for them and their families.